Let me ask you a question that might seem a little unusual at first, but I want you to really look around your kitchen right now. Is there a bulb of garlic sitting out on the counter? Perhaps it is tucked away in a ceramic bowl, or maybe you have a few loose clothes waiting in a drawer. If you're like most people, garlic is a staple in your home, something you reach for almost instinctively because you have heard for years that it is good for you. We're told it supports a strong heart, helps maintain steady blood pressure, and keeps our immune defenses sharp. For generations, this humble ingredient has been celebrated as one of nature's most effective gifts. But there's a quiet reality about garlic that very few people discuss, and it is something that becomes increasingly important as we navigate our 50s, 60s, and beyond. While garlic has incredible potential to protect your health, the specific way you handle, prepare, and eat it can completely change how it interacts with your body. In fact, many of the common habits we have practiced for decades can unintentionally strip garlic of its benefits, or in some cases, create digestive trouble that we mistakenly blame on aging itself. These aren't obvious errors. They're small, everyday routines that feel perfectly harmless until you understand the biology behind them. If you've ever noticed that garlic sometimes leaves you feeling heavy, bloated, or just generally off balance, or if you have wondered why you aren't feeling the vitality boost others talk about, you're in the right place. We're going to walk through the nuances of using this powerful food correctly, ensuring that every time you use a clove, it is actually serving your health rather than working against it. One of the most overlooked aspects of using garlic begins before you even pick up a knife. It's the simple act of cleaning the bulb. Most of us were taught that because garlic comes wrapped in those dry, papery layers, the clove inside is pristine and protected. It seems logical to just peel and chop. However, we have to remember where garlic comes from. It grows underground, directly in the soil. While that paper skin offers some protection, it's not an airtight seal. Microscopic particles of soil, bacteria, and natural molds cling to the outside of the bulb. When you're younger, your stomach acid is incredibly robust, and your immune system handles these minor intruders without you ever noticing. But as we mature, our digestive systems naturally become a bit more sensitive, and our stomach acid levels can decrease. This means the barrier that once neutralized those microscopic spores instantly isn't quite as aggressive as it used to be. When you peel an unwashed clove, your fingers transfer whatever is on the skin directly onto the edible part and then onto your cutting board. For some, this introduces low-level irritants that cause subtle bloating or a feeling of unease after a meal. The fix is incredibly simple and takes moments. Before you peel a clove, give it a quick rinse under cool running water. If you see any visible dirt, brush it off. Then dry it with a clean towel. By adding this 5-second step, you remove that external layer of dust and contaminants, ensuring that what goes into your meal is pure, clean, and much easier for a maturing digestive system to handle. Beyond just cleanliness, we also need to look at what accompanies garlic on your plate. There's a common scenario where a healthy dinner actually causes significant discomfort, and the combination of foods is often the culprit. Specifically, pairing raw or potent garlic with strong fermented foods or alcohol can create a chaotic environment in the stomach. Think about a meal where you might have spicy pickled vegetables, or perhaps you're enjoying a glass of wine or a beer with a garlic-heavy dish. Individually, these things are fine. But chemically, garlic is rich in sulfur compounds, while fermented foods and alcohol are acidic and biologically active. When these elements collide in a stomach that is already becoming more sensitive with age, it can trigger a reaction that feels like heartburn, but is actually a clash of compounds. The stomach lining can become irritated, leading to that tight, bloated feeling that sits under your ribs for hours. This is often why a meal feels wonderful while you are eating it, but an hour later you feel surprisingly drained or uncomfortable. It isn't necessarily that you have developed an intolerance to garlic. It's simply that asking your digestion to process strong sulfur and strong acids simultaneously is a heavy lift. A gentle adjustment here makes a world of difference. If you love fermented sides, try to eat them at a different time of day than your heavy garlic meals. If you're having a glass of wine, perhaps choose a cooked garlic dish rather than a raw one. Spreading out these potent inputs allows your body to process each one calmly, without the digestive turbulence. This concept of timing brings us to another habit that many health-conscious seniors adopt with the best intentions: eating raw garlic on an empty stomach. You may have read that this is the best way to absorb nutrients, but for many of us, it's too harsh. Raw garlic is intense, it's stimulating. When it hits an empty stomach, there's no food buffer to slow down its absorption or dilute its strong oils. In a younger body, the stomach lining is thick and resilient enough to handle this shock. But as tissues thin slightly with age, that direct contact can trigger immediate cramping, nausea, or a burning sensation that mimics acid reflux. It can even cause a sudden drop in blood pressure for some, leading to dizziness or lightheadedness because the compounds enter the bloodstream so rapidly. It's a shock to the system that serves no real benefit. You can get all the wonderful advantages of garlic without the discomfort simply by ensuring you have a foundation of food in your system first. Have your oatmeal, your toast, or your eggs, and then incorporate the garlic. By letting the garlic mix with other food, you create a slow release effect. This protects your stomach lining and ensures that the digestion process is smooth and comfortable, rather than a jarring event for your body. Now let's talk about the cooking process itself, because there's a fascinating bit of chemistry that happens on your cutting board, and most people miss it entirely. We often chop garlic and immediately throw it into a hot pan. It's a habit born of efficiency. But here's the secret. The primary healing compound in garlic, known as allicin, doesn't exist in the whole clove. It's only created when two different enzymes within the garlic touch each other, which happens when you crush or chop the meat of the clove. This chemical reaction takes a little bit of time to complete, roughly 10 minutes. If you chop garlic and instantly expose it to heat, you stop that reaction before it truly finishes. You get the flavor, yes, but you lose a significant portion of the health properties you're looking for. The heat deactivates the enzyme before it can do its work. So try this technique instead. Chop, mince, or crush your garlic first before you do anything else. Then just let it sit on the cutting board while you chop your onions, wash your vegetables, or get your protein ready. Give it that 10-minute window to breathe and activate. It costs you no extra time, but it maximizes the potency of the food. By the time you add it to your dish, the allicin has fully formed and is much more stable, meaning more of it survives the cooking process and makes it into your body. Speaking of cooking, heat management is another area where good intentions often go astray. We have all smelled the aroma of garlic sizzling in oil. It's one of the most inviting scents in the kitchen. But there's a very fine line between cooked garlic and burnt garlic. Garlic burns much faster than onions or other vegetables. When garlic is scorched or turns dark brown, its chemical structure changes again. It becomes bitter, and more importantly, it loses its beneficial properties. Burnt garlic is actually quite difficult to digest. It can be an irritant to the gut, causing gas and indigestion. If you've ever felt a little sour stomach after a restaurant meal, burnt garlic is a frequent suspect. To protect the integrity of the clove, treat it gently. If you're sautéing, add the garlic towards the end of the process rather than the beginning, or keep the heat low and slow. You want it to become fragrant and soft, perhaps turning a light golden straw color, but never dark. This gentle approach preserves the sulfur compounds that support your circulation and immune health, ensuring the garlic remains a nutritious ally rather than a digestive burden. Storage is another puzzle. We often treat garlic like a root vegetable that can survive anywhere, but it's actually quite sensitive to its environment. A very common mistake is storing garlic in the refrigerator. It seems like the fridge preserves everything, but for garlic, the cold, damp air mimics the conditions of winter soil. This signals the bulb that it's time to grow. You might notice your refrigerated garlic sprouts green shoots very quickly. While not toxic, sprouted garlic has a sharper, more bitter flavor and a different texture. Furthermore, the moisture in the fridge can encourage invisible mold growth long before you see it. On the other hand, storing garlic in sealed plastic bags or containers is equally problematic. Garlic needs to breathe. Trapped in plastic, it essentially suffocates and begins to rot from the inside out. The ideal home for garlic is somewhere cool, dry, and ventilated. A wire basket on a pantry shelf or a mesh bag in a cupboard is perfect. By keeping it at room temperature and dry, you keep the bulb dormant and potent. And remember, once you break the head open, those individual cloves will dry out faster, so try to use them within a week or 10 days for the best quality. There's also a shortcut that many of us take, especially when we're trying to avoid the lingering smell on our hands, swallowing whole cloves like a pill. It sounds like a clever workaround. You get the garlic down without the taste. But biologically, this is largely ineffective. Remember the chemistry we discussed earlier? The healing compound, Allicin, is only released when the clove is crushed or broken. If you swallow a clove whole, it remains sealed. Your stomach acid is strong, but a whole raw clove is dense. It often passes through the digestive tract largely intact, meaning you absorb almost none of the benefits. You're essentially asking your body to pass a hard object through your system, which can cause cramping and unnecessary strain. Furthermore, for older adults, swallowing a smooth, hard object the size of a garlic clove presents a genuine choking hazard. It's simply not worth the risk. If you want the benefits without the strong flavor in your food, crush the garlic and mix it with a spoonful of honey, yogurt, or applesauce. You need that physical breakdown of the clove to unlock the medicine inside. We also need to address the modern convenience of pre-peeled or jarred minced garlic. It's incredibly tempting to buy those jars at the supermarket to save time. However, garlic's protective skin is there for a reason. As soon as a clove is peeled, it begins to oxidize. It starts losing its potency immediately. The pre-minced garlic sitting at oil or water on a store shelf has often been processed weeks or months ago. To preserve it, manufacturers often add acids or preservatives that further degrade the fresh active compounds you're seeking. You might get a garlic-like flavor, but you're getting very little of the health value. Additionally, jarred garlic that has been sitting for a long time can develop a funky, almost metallic taste that can ruin a good meal. The extra minute it takes to peel and chop a fresh clove is the most valuable minute you can spend in the kitchen. You're trading convenience for quality, and your body will notice the difference in both digestion and effectiveness. As we discuss the power of garlic, we must also respect its strength as a biologically active substance, particularly regarding blood health. Garlic is a natural blood thinner. It helps improve circulation, which is generally a wonderful thing. However, if you're currently taking prescription blood thinners, daily aspirin, or medications for blood pressure, adding large amounts of concentrated garlic to your diet can amplify the effects of those drugs. It creates a cumulative effect. You might notice you bruise more easily than usual, or that a small cut takes a long time to stop bleeding. You might feel a bit dizzy when you stand up quickly. These are signs that your blood may be becoming too thin. This doesn't mean you have to banish garlic from your kitchen, but it does mean you need to be mindful of consistency and quantity. If you're on these medications, enjoying garlic in your normal cooking is usually fine, but starting a high-dose raw garlic regimen or taking garlic supplements is something you should discuss with your doctor first. It's about finding a balance where the food supports your medication rather than interfering with it. Finally, there's a critical timing issue that is rarely mentioned outside of medical offices, and it concerns surgery. Because garlic has this blood-thinning effect, it's vitally important to stop consuming it in significant amounts at least 2 weeks before any scheduled surgical procedure, including extensive dental work.
Surgeons need your blood to clot efficiently during and after a procedure to promote healing. Garlic acts in the opposite direction, keeping blood flowing freely. There have been many cases where patients experienced excessive bleeding or complications during minor surgeries simply because they were consuming heavy amounts of garlic right up until the day of the operation. It's a small dietary change that supports your recovery and makes the surgeon's job easier. If you have a procedure on the calendar, take a little break from the garlic. Let your system return to its baseline clotting ability. You can always welcome it back into your diet once you're fully healed. Navigating your health as you get older isn't about rigid restrictions or fear. It's about understanding how your body changes and adapting your habits to support it. Garlic is a perfect example of this. It's a wonderful, flavorful, life-enhancing food. When you wash it well, store it correctly, prepare it with patience, and eat it with wisdom, it remains one of the best allies you can have in your kitchen. It's not about doing everything perfectly every single time. It's about making small, informed shifts that add up to better digestion and a stronger body. So next time you see that bulb on your counter, you'll know exactly how to unlock its full potential. Enjoy your cooking, listen to your body, and take comfort in knowing that these small adjustments are helping you live well every single day.